with Corey Jenkins. Corey is the host of Life with Awareness. It's a talk show on the web. And he also is a host of another talk show called The Mailroom. And we're going to kind of get into what is Life with Awareness and what is The Mailroom. But first, I want to know about you, Corey.
Okay.
I would like to know your journey and your own life with awareness. It's a fascinating subject.
Yeah, I will try to make a very long story short.
Okay.
Which is that, well, we all have life. I do too, so here's part of mine. I usually start telling my story kind of like at adulthood. So like everybody, or not everybody, but like a lot of people, I went to college when I was 18 years old. And like a lot of people, I had no idea what I was doing. I kind of cruised through 3 years of college, really wasn't sure what I was doing. And I had one very profound experience in college it's worth sharing in part of my story, which was that going into my senior year, a friend of mine had said to me, Corey, have you thought about applying for the President's Leadership Program? And everything about what he asked me sounded unfamiliar. You know, I was not a college scholar. I was not excelling at anything in particular. But I thought, well, it sounds interesting. And I went and looked at the criteria, and you're supposed to have all these recommendations from your teachers and your professors and your high grade point average. I didn't have any of that, but I filled out the application. A big part of it was essay. What do you want to do in the world? What are the things that you aspire to do? And I just wrote what was in my heart. And somehow I got accepted into this program. And the coolest thing about this program is it was based in diversity. So for me, a guy who grew up in Loveland, Colorado, which is a small town, very ordinary, and then went to college not far away, had my first exposure to people from all over the world. So there were 18-year-olds in there, and there were 50-year-olds in there. There was heterosexual, homosexual, every race that you can imagine, all different ability levels. And for 3 hours a week, I would spend my Wednesday nights in this dynamic group of people, and it blew my mind open about what was possible in the world. And it also blew my mind open about my own belief systems. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and I also just had a very small perspective. But all of a sudden I thought, there was a fearlessness that came out of it. And I thought, what do I want to do? And I just became very open to the possibilities. And anytime something occurred to me as interesting, there was never this belief system that said there's any reason you can't do that. So to try to get back into the long story short part, I went on to take for my first job out of college with a guy who inspired me. He was an entrepreneur, formerly in corporate America, still in his 40s, had kind of retired, but said he wanted to start a small company and train young, ethical business people to work in business. And I thought that sounded great. And he was also one of the few people I'd ever met who was very, very wealthy, but didn't walk around with any arrogance.
You didn't know it, right?
Yeah, I mean, the guy was just very loving. His heart was open. So worked for him for 2 years. And then at one point there, I realized how much I'd learned. I jumped ship from there and I went to work for another big company for 7 years. And that same just openness of my belief systems turned up opportunity after opportunity after opportunity for me to have a really wonderful career in corporate America for almost a decade. And it was amazing because I got to have lots of life experiences, including the one where I got to a point and I said, can this be all there is? And I resisted that a lot because I thought I kind of had the world in my grips. I kind of thought I'd figured this out. And I have a book manuscript I'm writing, and I kind of said, is it possible that all this is so meaningless? I had bought the homes, I had built the 401k, I had a girlfriend my family approved of. I was still in my 20s and having the career that most people in their 40s were still chasing after. And I still felt kind of empty. And so I needed to explore some things in my life. So I reluctantly started to drift away from the company, and ultimately we parted ways. And that's when the big awarenesses started to show up, because I started to read books. I started to have conversations with people that I normally wouldn't have ever talked to people about. You know, all of a sudden this word spirituality kind of bubbled into my awareness a little bit, and I thought, I had a lot of resistance. I found myself going, I don't want to read anything that has the word God in it. It better not have the word Christ in it, or else I'm really going to shut the book and go.
Right.
But there were a couple books I ran into where I saw those words, and at the same time I didn't have the experience that they were proselytizing or that they were saying, you need to believe what I need to believe. They stimulated me to start asking myself, why do I think what I think?
Oh, yeah.
And what bubbled up was an authentic interest in what I call my spirituality. It's not yours, it's not anyone else's, it doesn't have a name.
It's very personal.
It's very personal.
Yeah.
And to me, you know, things like spirituality and intimacy are synonymous in my life these days. So I have spent the last 5 to 7 years trying a lot of new things on, scaring myself out of my mind, chasing romance, building small companies, some of them not working, seeing what it's like to spend the fortune I once amassed, having emotional breakdowns, all to find that there was value in all of it, because every time I had a new experience I got to learn a little bit more about myself. And today it has manifested primarily as this talk show, Life with Awareness, because throughout all of this I've learned a ton about myself. I have discovered what my belief systems are about what I like to call the mystery. People use this word God a lot, and I'm fine with the word God now. I just don't use it very often. I prefer the word the mystery because I think it is this energy system that we're part of that we're probably never going to fully be able to explain. So I just like the word mystery.
Yeah, because it is a mystery.
It is for me, and it's what the universe is, and it's also what I'm a part of. And I needed to discover that for myself and figure out what that is, and I'm learning about it all the time. And at the same time, I'm a human.
Right.
And I have life, which a lot of times is comprised of my relationships, how I earn money, what I do with my free time, what makes me laugh, my creative expression. So to me, life with awareness is just it's a big theme for me, and that's how I'm sharing who I am and what I am with the world.
And so the show, does that help you? It just kind of gives you another outlet or another opportunity to bring in people, because you have guests who cover all kinds of topics. Do they bring kind of those gifts to you, those things? It opens your mind in another way and gives you it's like a tool, right? It
is. To me, it's like the perfect synergy. And I also love that word. You know, every word out there, I think I have to figure out, does it work for me? And synergy does, because on the show, very similar to this, I get to sit and hear another person's life experience, which I find very interesting. And at the same time, when they show up authentically, it triggers something in me that goes, what's my experience of that? What would I like my experience to be? So nothing gives me more true joy than sitting and having those conversations, which is very similar to what you and I are doing.
I love it. You know, that's why I do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I found you through a mutual friend, and then I went and saw some of your videos and some of your shows. I love your guests. Could you talk a little bit about the kinds of guests you have, and what do you have a focus, a main focus for your guests, or is it really wide open for you?
It's very much in the context of life with awareness, meaning this. I want to talk about a variety of life experiences. So I want to talk about relationships. I want to talk about work. I want to talk about spirituality. I want to talk about sex. I want to talk about emotions. Anything that is part of the human experience, I want to talk about. And it's a little hard to describe what I bring to the show, but I don't want to only feature spiritual people. I don't want to only feature new agers. I really just want authentic people who are willing to come and sit down and not have any subject be off limits.
Right.
And what I have found is that I am shocked by people. They want to share the truth.
They do.
They just want an environment to share it without someone going, you're wrong.
Right.
But something about going, what's your experience, opens people up. And several of my guests, by the way, when I first saw their material, because a lot of them are authors, or they are television hosts, or they have some sort of following, sometimes I haven't experienced their material the same way I did in a conversation, and I've had to sit down with them before, hear the story, and many times I've actually said, this is interesting. I've said, I've read your book, and I'm experiencing you deeper than what you share. Can we talk about that at the show?
Yes,
And that comes
absolutely.
up.
Because you're giving them permission.
Yeah.
It's almost, total permission to just be who they are. That's the blessing of it. When I was, what is the word, perusing through your website, Life with Awareness, Corey does some really interesting things. He has I love the, you actually read to people, like you read to the audience.
Yeah,
Can you talk about that? What had you think of that?
I'll tell you. Actually, it's a great story.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, it's really simple. First of all, I think there is an immense amount of information available in books. Books cost like a penny to like $9 on Amazon plus shipping, and there's so much information in them. The only thing it takes is the willingness to either sit down and read, or do what I've done over the last few years, which is I download audiobooks and I go for a walk and I listen. And I have just been totally stimulated by books, and they're such an available resource that I thought, I want to give something that I would have appreciated having. And so this idea was born called the Read to Me program. Let me throw in one more detail. I host a weekly book study at my house. It's not even a book study, it's a group of people who get together, and sometimes we get through a paragraph, sometimes 5 pages, but we read a little bit of a book that stimulates our thinking, and then we have an open conversation about it. And I thought, I want to share this type of experience with all the people who are like I was, meaning, I wondered if that would happen, there we go, thought they were too busy to read. So on my website, lifewarewness.com, on the left side you can click on Read to Me, and what you'll find is that 5 days a week, by the time you wake up in the morning, there's me with an audio file reading to you for about 5 minutes, and then you have an opportunity to comment on it. But even if you don't want to, you can literally from your smartphone get my email in the morning, one click of a button, and I start talking to you in the morning. And usually I'm reading to you from either Marianne Williamson, A Course in Miracles, Wayne Dyer, Eckhart Tolle, but also starting to expand to Gay Hendricks and John Bradshaw and some other authors. And I don't always read a full book.
Right.
I just try to dig out some of the meat and present it to people.
Like excerpts, like the excerpts that.
Yeah.
Well, I did that today, this morning.
Oh, you listened to
it?
Yes,
I listened to it. I enjoyed it very much, and I thought this is a really great idea.
Yeah, this morning was The Power of Now, right?
Well, The Power of Now. So we're here. We're here with Eckhart Tolle and Corey Jenkins,
exactly.
right? Helping us get through our day.
Yeah.
It's a great way to start your day, right?
I love it.
Right.
And honestly, the way I do it is I usually record it right before I go to bed. But then I listen to it first thing in the morning too. It's how I wake up, is listening to the same thing.
And it's your voice.
Yeah, which is kind of weird, but
it's kind of cool though when you think about it. I mean, because that's coming from another source in a way. How beautiful is that? I wanted to talk to you too about your Life with Awareness. How often do you have new shows up, and is there a way for the audience to find out when you have a new one? And how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of us out there, I think I have most of the social networks covered.
Okay.
So, of course, facebook.com/lifewithawareness, the full name, has a number of things coming out every day. Anytime there's a new video, it's on there. I also have contributors. The fans have become contributors, so I've asked a few special people to post either quotes or pictures. I tweet both at Corey Jenkins and at LifeWAwareness, because Twitter doesn't give me enough space.
That's right.
And honestly, the way it works now is that I will shoot, and then it sometimes takes me a week or two to get everything edited, and then I'll usually have a new video coming out every week. So typically Wednesdays is when you'll find a new video. Sometimes a full episode will precede a segment that's coming out, because the full episodes are sometimes 40 minutes long.
Right.
And I like to have it out there early for people who find it. But then, if you're not going to the website every day, I would say at least come by the Facebook site every Wednesday.
Good. That's great to know, because I love your show.
Thanks. Yeah, and
you're a great role model.
Thank you.
For me, and it's great to see how you shoot it and all of those technical things. I think it's really interesting for me. I also stumbled on you as a host in the mailroom.
Yeah.
And this is not MAIL. This is MALE. We're talking men talking.
Yeah. Really talking.
Talking. I mean, you're really opening real intimately.
Yeah.
Very authentically. You want to talk about the mailroom and the passion behind that and
Yeah.
why you want to do a show like that.
Yeah, the mailroom, which you can find at themailroom.tv. So instead of being .com, it's the THE mail MALE room.tv. And it was truly inspired by my co-host on the show, Brad Swanson. Brad Swanson is a guy, when you see him, he looks exactly the opposite of me. He's like a Hollywood hipster, cool haircut, super trendy clothes. And we had an interesting meeting where we came together in an environment one night where we each had a chance to kind of share what we were passionate about. And he got up and talked about being a love coach in front of a big group of people, and people laughed at him. They said, "What do? You teach people to love each other?" And he said, "No, I teach people to love themselves, and then the rest of it works itself out." And I thought, interesting.
Yeah.
And then I got up and I actually didn't know how I wanted to express my brand, because it was before I had my Life with Awareness program. But I said, look, laugh at me all you want, but the people that I've seen on television doing what I want to do are Oprah Winfrey, it was Phil Donahue, Dr. Phil dabbles with it, I've seen him do some powerful programming, and I said, it's the people who are fearless in their conversation. So when I was talking to Brad after that, he said, Corey, look, I got this show called The Mailroom. He said, it's focused on love, sex, and relationships, but it's men talking and leaving their egos at the door. So it doesn't mean you can't swear, and it doesn't mean you can't let it out, but when you let it out from your heart, not from your judgment or your opinions or your fears. Or if you do, let's facilitate that and see if we can transition it to what's really in there. And it's turned into, I think, 75 episodes. Everything on there from, we've interviewed everybody from, celebrities like Jessica Setta from the Pussycat Dolls to Randy Spears, who is a porn star, but a remarkably charming human being to talk to there's a couple of really conscious men that came in and talked about how they participate in relationships. I mean, the comments we got from women on that show were amazing. It was like, where do you find these guys? Because these are guys who are honest and revealing.
They're not everywhere.
I don't know. I think one at a time we're demonstrating what that conversation looks like.
I think too, we can bring that out in men as well. Women can. We can help them. We give them a safe place to actually show those parts of themselves and reveal the intimate parts of themselves, especially when we're being that way.
Thank you.
Because it really isn't about them. I understand that. It's about we as women.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. I really believe in the idea of conscious people.
Yes.
And gender has its conditional roles or conditioned roles. But I'll tell you what, when one human shows up conscious around another human, all of a sudden gender barely matters.
Right.
Because you're right. If a conscious woman shows up, it's really easy for my conscious side to come out. And at the same time, I can recognize the pitfalls.
Yeah.
That if a woman shows up and she's in her codependent mode or whatever her brand of ego is, I have to be very aware of that to go, because there's a part of me that's attracted to that because I'm human.
Right, exactly. And there's probably a part of you that has, we all have our unhealed, parts of ourselves. So we're probably attracting codependent people if we're codependent ourselves.
That is my experience.
so we can take a look at, it's funny because it's all about law of attraction, really. When you really realize that the responsibility really lies within yourself, then there's more power there. It's a more empowering place to be than if somebody's doing something to you.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, the law of attraction, I think, is so much more powerful than almost the rap that it's gotten. My experience is that the law of attraction has been too closely related to The Secret.
Yes.
And because The Secret, in my opinion, went a certain direction to really make it marketable, the actual law of attraction gets a little lost in that story, but the actual law of attraction is real.
It's real. It's real. And it's very empowering. And that's, I always look at when something goes on in my life, where I'm at cause. Even though, I know that it started here. It's manifesting out here, however it's manifesting. But I have an opportunity to go inside and say, what is this about here?
Isn't that amazing? I mean, that is a huge awareness for me. And speaking in the context of relationships, that was part of what blew my doors open on who I am as a partner and what kind of partnership I want to create. Right. Because I was able to look at people and go, they're codependent, and then all of a sudden it's like, let me look closer at this. And it actually took a really in-depth inventory of myself and my relationships, and sharing that with a mentor of mine where he said, Corey, can you see the behavior in your own life? And I said, no. And he said, let's look closer. And I said,
yeah.
Wow.
It's when that's a revelation.
Huge.
Oh, it's so empowering though when you know. I mean, I understand that the first time you see it, it was like, oh my God, I've been doing this for years, you know, and I, you know, keep creating the same thing over and over and over again.
Well, and this, what I'm about to say is very similar to what you'll see on the mailroom.tv.
Okay.
But that kind of revelation for me as a man, and then to relate it to how I participate in partnerships, it's almost reintroduced me to the world of relationships in a way that I had no idea. I'm attracted to different women now. Sometimes I can recognize my attraction at multiple levels. I mean, don't get me wrong, I am still drawn to some of the innate physical characteristics of a woman. It's just there.
Right.
But when I add that to this broader scope of what do I want to create in my life, then all of a sudden it gets easier to make the decision like, wow, she's beautiful, or she's making herself available to me, and do I want that? No, I can walk away, versus going, oh, here's somebody who I feel uplifted by, plus their sexual attraction. Maybe that's a person that I could create something powerful with.
Because you have to have all of that.
Yeah.
In a relationship.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you just have to. Well, I have to have that. So I understand that. So that's what the mailroom's all about.
Yeah, it is, and I encourage people to watch it. We are, we're going to be developing some new shows, but there's a ton of it already out there, and I encourage you to move beyond the title of the video. Give it 5 minutes, watch it, and tell me if you don't have a totally different experience of what conscious conversation about relationships
That's very true. It's really enlightening. The episodes that I've seen, very enlightening.
And I really appreciate my co-host, because I can get a little too serious sometimes, because I love the conscious conversation, but my co-host is such a different type of communicator than me. But boy, when you listen to him, it's like, whoa, this dude gets it.
Right, he gets it.
Yeah.
He gets it. Wow, this has been wonderful. This has been fun. What's new for you? Are you doing anything new? What are you adding to your
Yeah, I do have
pipeline?
two new things, and they're both in the form of books. So I have a book by the same name, Life with Awareness, that will be coming out. So it's very similar to what you'll see on my program. It includes a lot of my personal story. It's definitely not about Corey. It's designed to help you, to give you tools. And by the way, it's not soft. It'll poke you in your wounds a little bit and say, are you willing to do the work, whatever the work is to you, to have a new experience of life? That's one big project. The other one is I'm also co-writing a book with my mom that is going to be a collection of rigorously honest conversations between a baby boomer mom and me. So some people are going to say it's taboo. Some people are going to get a little uncomfortable, because it's a mom and a son talking about everything from the first time I drank alcohol and used drugs to sexual encounters, all the stuff a mom ever wanted to know from her son, I'm going to reveal, and I get to ask her back. I get to ask her questions like, what was it like to grow up in a strict Catholic family where what the church said was even more important than what your parents said? I get to ask her about what it was like to be a young married woman to a guy that might have to go away and fight in a war that they didn't believe in. And there's no opinions in this whole thing. We're not judging anything that went on, but we're revealing, honestly, the evolution of two different generations in a mother-son conversation.
Well, because you're affecting one another.
Very much so.
Right. Were you an only child?
No, I'm actually one of four. I was the last boy, so there were 3 boys, and then we adopted my sister after that. But my parents were really excited to have a family, and it was a very dynamic environment that I grew up in.
Oh, great. And you're not from LA, right? You're from
originally from Loveland, Colorado.
That's right. Okay. And so you're somewhat newly transplanted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like a lot of people. I came here because I loved the beach and I loved the weather, but I stay for the creativity. Conversations like these, I just find that this is such an epicenter for openness. Where there's so much room for everyone to express who they are, and so little judgment that I love it.
Well, I'm so happy to have met you, because I know we've talked a little bit. It's just been recently that we started communicating, and it's been very enlightening, your Life with Awareness. I'm excited, especially your Read to Me program. I'm really excited. Is there a newsletter? I didn't really notice that.
Yeah, the way it works is if you go to my website, you'll see at the very top, it'll say put your email here in order to receive the newsletter. It's not even really a newsletter. The truth is it's an email only that comes out every day that has a link to the Read to Me section. And then occasionally I'll use that to also share with you my newest video. But for the most part, it makes it really easy so that in the morning, if you're like me, where you reach over and you grab your iPhone and you click on your email, it'll say Life with Awareness right away. So just add your email to the list, and
that's awesome. So then it's available.
Yeah.
You know, for everyone.
Yeah, and it's really simple. I mean, I don't sell you anything on there. It's just I'm just offering to read to you. That's all.
Right. Well, so I do an after the show blog. So once I air the show, I put up an after the show blog, and I talk about my experience with my guests. And then I share all of their links, all of their references that they want to include. Anything that they want to make sure that it's available to the audience. I put that in the blog, and so that's whenever I re-air the show, which I do oftentimes. I just keep sharing and all over the place. I always attach it with the blog, so everything is always kind of connected and it's one piece. It comes out about half hour after the show airs, and also when I'm doing the editing, I'll put up the graphics, right? So all of the things that you talked about, all your links, your Facebook page, it'll just come up right underneath you, and the audience will be able to, write it down or whatever. So
Perfect. Yeah, and on the Read to Me program specifically, I really encourage you to comment below it when you listen to it, because the whole idea is to create a worldwide conversation, and we're in like 14 countries now, where people from all over the world the whole idea is share your experience, listen to the blurb, share what comes up for you. It's not about, I liked or didn't like this. It's about, for me, when I read that, what came up for me. And it's just a opportunity to express.
It might have been a perspective that I might not have noticed, and then I can look at myself and say, I can see that now. How empowering is that? It's really a sharing of ideas, in which we obviously we're both about. So I love it. Thank you again, Corey, for being here on the show, and I'm really excited to get this aired and see what's next for you. I can't wait to just keep in touch and to make sure that you're sharing your stuff.
Yeah, well, this is my pleasure. Thank you for sharing your time with me. And,
absolutely.
And to all of you out there, check out the site.
Yeah,
if it
definitely
works for you, leave your comments, get involved, and
live a life with awareness. That's right.
That's what I'm learning. It's all and by the way, it's really fun.
It is fun. That's why we do it. We wouldn't do it if it wasn't fun. That's for sure. We're not masochists, right? No, we love it.
No,
so we
I
share
to enjoy it for
and
sure.
And I think that it comes across. So I really appreciate you being on the show today, and we'll see you next time.